Hello, and on today's episode, I'm here with Nate Whitehill of CryptoSlate. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Jason.
So can you tell me a little bit about the problems that CryptoSlate is trying to solve here?
So CryptoSlate is trying to solve the problem of there is so much information in the cryptocurrency and blockchain universe, and we're trying to organize it and streamline it through the presentation, through things like improving the content quality by being as objective and transparent in our content as possible, and through a massive database of cryptocurrency coins and companies and products and events.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise out there in the crypto news area. You know, you go on Twitter and you just see just so much stuff. It's hard to know what's going on, really.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I feel like for people who are new to cryptocurrency or blockchain, it's really hard to determine what is a good source of info and what is a bad source of info. And because so many of these projects, there's inherent kind of get rich quick schemes. It can be difficult for someone to know if something is a scam or not, if something is worth investing in or spending more time to research. So we really try to organize all of that into a very kind of clean interface that explains everything as objectively and neutrally as possible.
Seems like it's kind of a recurring theme on this show of talking to people who are desperately trying to kind of find the signal in the noise. So I really appreciate what you're doing. How are you doing it? How are you solving this problem?
So right now we have a team of around 15 or so writers around the world who cover different topics on the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. It's a pretty diverse group of people. Some people who have been writing for the past 6 or 7 years for sites like Cointelegraph, who's one of the first cryptocurrency news sites back in 2012. Other writers we kind of have are newer to the space and writing about things in more of kind of an introductory way. So by being able to combine different people with different kind of views or experience around the world, we're able to really produce content which I feel like is kind of globally applicable. For example, 70% of our traffic comes from outside the United States. So we've seen a huge increase in Indonesian traffic recently, which tells us that there's actually a lot of people who are interested in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space coming out of Southeast Asia.
And are you doing original reporting or is this mostly curation?
It's a combination of both. So we definitely prefer to do original reporting. And by having so many connections around the world, we're able to tell a lot of original stories that may have not been heard otherwise. But there also is a component that we're kind of looking for what cool content hasn't been covered, or what individual person that we know may be able to provide some additional context to a news story, which people may have read about, but it may be confusing about what the full story is.
And how long has the site been running?
We've been operating now since December 2017, so coming up on a year now.
Okay, which is like forever in crypto time.
Yeah, I know. That is a long time.
But things move so fast. It must be really challenging having a news site and just trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing people learn about the world of crypto is that it's truly a rabbit hole of information, and there's thousands of products or thousands of projects. There's hundreds of thousands probably now of people and companies that are working in the space worldwide or trying to. So we produce content that truly it's 24/7. So we're putting out on average a new article anywhere from every 2 to 3 hours.
So what have been some of the challenges of running a site like this?
Definitely trying to figure out what is the truth to anything. Like as we were talking about earlier, there's so much spin to everything, whether it's a press release or it's a project that's trying to get more attention. There's always a spin that's trying to be taken, and so many of these communities are very passionate about their projects, almost tribal to an extent. So we really like to, as you said earlier, kind of parse the signal from the noise and figure out what is the real facts in any given story.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the age we live in, but people will just lie right to your face. And then you'll talk to somebody else at a company and they'll be like, oh, no, that's not true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the one good thing about, cryptocurrency and blockchain, obviously, or one of many good things is the fact that it's easy to find what is the truth. If you're looking at like a block explorer of a particular blockchain, you can see was something true or not, like is something verified to be true. So inherently, we're kind of taking that approach. albeit in kind of a centralized way, but we're trying to get to the bottom of what's really happening in the crypto space.
And was it hard finding writers that were knowledgeable in this space?
Yeah, in the beginning, I would say it was a little bit tougher, but now because we have a pretty global brand, we reach hundreds of thousands of people every month. We have a lot of writers, very, very talented ones reaching out to us who are interested in writing for us and contributing their analysis. So that's become easy at this point. I think the biggest challenge right now is continually, kind of as it was in the beginning, like how do we provide the best possible, most objective content on a daily basis that's also compelling and interesting and entertaining. So how do we create information and content or cover content that people really want to read about and matters to them?
Yeah, that objectivity is really important. I think one thing I've noticed when reading your site is there doesn't seem to be really a point of view. And a lot of other blogs and news sites, they really take one side or the other, and it gets frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that for a certain type of person, someone who's been in the cryptocurrency or blockchain space for several years, or they've been an industry professional for a while, we do have some thought pieces or some opinion pieces for those people. But those are always fully labeled opinion at the top or labeled guest post. So it becomes pretty clear if a notable individual is writing and they're sharing their opinion, that it's their opinion and not the opinion of CryptoSlate.
So one of the tendencies we see in cryptocurrency reporting or people just writing blog posts is this kind of recycling of content. Do you often find that people are recycling your content and trying to kind of reshape it into their own thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just common of having a website, which a lot of people go to and they admire, and that's ultimately it's flattering in the sense that people kind of see us as one of the leaders, I guess you could say, as far as what types of content we're writing about. Like, for example, we recently did a really interesting series on 7 different questions that the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin, was asking his Twitter audience. So he was asking basically called hard questions for the blockchain world. So 7 separate questions, and we created 7 separate posts that were trying to offer up some sort of answers to his questions. And that series, was an original idea, all based off what Vitalik had tweeted. And we saw after that a lot of sites were starting to kind of copy that series, which is fine. But, it's fun to see that. And like I said, it's flattering.
Yeah, it's kind of an epidemic. I continuously blame these bounty programs that pay people or otherwise somehow compensate them for just churning out these articles. And oftentimes they're little more than copy and pasting what somebody else has written.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely, I feel like in order to achieve the most amount of discoverability or most amount of kind of viral, organic sharing of content, it truly does need to be original or be something that people haven't seen before. So by just copy and pasting, that's kind of, it's hard to stand out. But when a site or we are able to actually produce something original and something that is compelling and makes people interested in, then we see obviously higher traffic numbers for those types of articles.
You seem like really well positioned for the future. I'm continuously surprised how some of the larger established financial news places, like, well, maybe we shouldn't name names, but how their crypto coverage is so low quality. Well, one is very anemic. That doesn't happen very often. Oftentimes the coverage is very immature. They ask the same questions over and over again. Whereas you seem like you're actually giving people what they want. Yeah,
thank you. No, that's definitely the goal. I think that kind of stems from just our culture as a company. My business partner and I, we've been cryptocurrency kind of fanatics and blockchain fanatics since 2015 or so. So well before doing CryptoSlate, we were reading as much as possible, going on Reddit and crypto Twitter and really trying to figure out what is the most interesting projects, interesting people, how can we identify what is true, what is not true, and through just that passion and that interest, we really turned that into, okay, let's create a new platform for people to be able to come gather information or gather insight about the cryptocurrency and blockchain world. So it kind of started with just like I said, our passion for cryptocurrency and blockchain as potentially transformative things for humanity.
Are there any current trends you're particularly interested in right now?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's interesting how the kind of public perception of ICOs is becoming increasingly negative, and obviously that's because of how many ICO scams and bad actors that were in the space over the past year or so, with really kind of the ICO explosion of 2017. So with that, there's obviously much more of a push towards regulated offerings, either STOs, security token offerings, or DSOs, digital security offerings. And we see that as the future for how these kind of new crypto startups are done, is that they will actually be fully legit, fully regulated. There will actually be accountability. It won't basically be what we've seen, which is these projects just printing money and then having their cake and eating it too. So I think it's going to be much more promising and much more healthy for the ecosystem to have fully regulated offerings instead of any of the ICOs and unregulated offerings that have really dominated the past 2 years of the blockchain space.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's so shocking. It was just like the Wild West. It wasn't even Wild West. It was like a circus.
Absolutely.
So what are your plans going forward for the future?
So right now, we're hiring in our downtown Seattle office. We still have a global team of writers, but we're definitely looking to expand our team here in Seattle. We're building out our platform as well. So my background is a software developer and a web designer with a strong emphasis on user experience and user interaction. So I have a tremendous amount of kind of passion towards improving the CryptoSlate website experience, whether it's the type of data that you're gathering or how you see it on the site. And just really the product roadmap is something that I'm extremely excited to continue developing with my business partner, Matthew, here in Seattle. So yeah, it's definitely, it's going to be exciting, especially to see if the cryptocurrency kind of market does kind of change course. Obviously, it's been a bit of a bear market this year, but with these bull runs, obviously come a ton of new interest, a ton of new search queries, people who are just want to learn about cryptocurrency and blockchain. So as much as we try to stay neutral to everything in the market, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be a bad thing if there's another bull run.
Do you think we're going to see any regulatory clarity or guidance from the US? It seems like we're kind of stagnating and people are very concerned about the future, but we don't know where we're going.
Yeah, I definitely think that it will be coming. It's a question of whether it comes in the next 6 months or next 2 years. And it's seemingly more based off what the news reports are saying, that it may be another few more years before there is truly some clarity. Congress recently submitted requests to clarify the cryptocurrency tax code, which, as you know, has been so confusing for so many people. Thankfully, we have cool startups like Zen Ledger in Seattle that are trying to basically create the QuickBooks for cryptocurrency. So to make cryptocurrency accounting a much more kind of straightforward process that people use software to figure out what their gains and losses are and what they owe on their taxes. So that's kind of one big piece of it. But I do see the government, the U.S. government, is taking, albeit kind of a wait and see and a slower approach compared to some other jurisdictions around the world. But it's not as bad as it could be. Like, for example, in China, obviously, that's kind of like the end of the world for cryptocurrency, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I just wish they had more of a sense of urgency, and because sometimes you wonder, are they really working on it, or are they just trying to delay it as long as they possibly can so they don't get in trouble themselves on the side of the regulators?
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is a lot of people don't understand it still. So you have some savvy individuals like the commissioner of the SEC, Jay Clayton, who he's just come out and said that he sees all ICOs as securities, which it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Like I said, the bad thing is that it potentially could decrease the number of people who are thinking of starting crypto projects in the U.S. and they may go outside of the U.S. The good thing in the sense that the SEC's job is to protect Main Street investors. So by having less ICOs in the United States, or less really unregulated ICOs, it's going to mean that our ecosystem develops a bit healthier compared to some of the international ecosystems. So the more that they can be clear, obviously that is going to produce more certainty and less uncertainty in the market. And it should then continue to kind of develop more organically with the more certainty there is.
Well, CryptoSlate is a really great site. Is there anything I should have asked you that maybe I missed?
Thank you so much. That's really great to hear. Definitely, it's a great question. What questions should you ask? One thing that we are really excited about is we recently launched a new feature to our website called CryptoSlate Places. And CryptoSlate Places currently is a collection of 14 different mini sites for different jurisdictions in the world. So we're trying to also take the approach of both covering news globally and covering it from kind of a local perspective. So, for example, we have CryptoSlate Seattle. If you go to cryptoslate.com/Seattle, you can see a mini site with only Seattle news about Seattle companies. We have a list of Seattle cryptocurrency startups and companies, Seattle events. So we're doing this for 14 other jurisdictions across the globe. Earlier this week, we launched CryptoSlate Australia, CryptoSlate London, and CryptoSlate New York. And really the goal is to be able to tell news, like I said, both from a global perspective, but also by having correspondents in these individual hubs produce original news and tell original stories with some of the interesting blockchain companies in those places as well.
Oh, that's really awesome. Having it niche down to those local communities, is such a global phenomenon, but having those face-to-face meetings and just knowing people and having an awareness of your community is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to be in Malta next month at the Malta Blockchain Summit. And I was in Gibraltar earlier this year. Those are two of the places we're trying to focus on. But by being able to also travel to these cool places around the globe and see what's happening and develop connections, it's really allowing us to expand our presence in these local communities and kind of be known as a source that these communities can go to, whether it's to find out what the latest events are, what the latest news is. It kind of gives the communities like a centralized place to find news and figure out fun things to do in the crypto event space, or it gives someone who maybe hasn't been to those places kind of like an insight into what's happening in those individual communities.
Well, that sounds really awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You are a podcast listener and you're interested in crypto. Otherwise, why would you be listening to this show, right? Have you tried looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts to listen to? If you've used Google, then you've probably found a whole bunch of clickbait articles. Top 10 lists that just list the same podcasts over and over again. And most of those podcasts aren't even active anymore. If you use iTunes, then you probably got a whole bunch of irrelevant results. The iTunes search function is absolutely awful. It's kind of like using Alta Vista in the 1990s. Keyword stuffing has made it almost unusable. So I made a site to fix this problem. Just go to crypto.podcastlist.net. On the site, you'll find a comprehensive list of all the active podcasts covering the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and other decentralization technologies. This is not a curated list of my favorite shows. This list is intended to be complete. I want to list every single show that is focused on this industry. I've got about 75 active shows on the list already. Please let me know if I've missed any shows. This list is also covered by a Creative Commons license, so feel free to reuse it and share it. Check out crypto.podcastlist.net if you are looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts. And if you have your own show, please check and make sure you are listed. Once again, the site is crypto.podcastlist.net. Please check it out and tell me what you think.